Hi everyone, welcome to our generation's interview with Chris Ramsey. I'm joined with our correspondent Ben Summer, and we're going to be asking Chris a few questions. We thank Chris very much for joining us. And Ben, why don't you kick us off?
Brilliant. I love that correspondent. That sounds great. Okay, so Chris, first question to you. Obviously, as we all know, the squad became a little bit thin after the restart of football with a couple of players departing and so on. But that did lead to a lot of younger players stepping up. So I was wondering, what have you made of the performances of the players who did that make that step up and the chance that they were given?
I think they equipped themselves very well. I mean, we're very pleased that obviously Mark had the foresight to use the squad and use the young players. But I don't think any of them have let themselves down. So that's a testament to our development program that we have at the club. And, you know, hopefully it'll carry on.
And from your own point of view of wanting the younger players to make that step to the first team, was it a significant blow that the under-23s weren't available during that time? And do you think there's maybe been any harm to their development as players from not getting to get into the first team at that point?
It was a little bit of a blow, but, you know, at the end of the day, you know, the manager decides what he's going to do and what he thinks is correct at the time. And, you know, obviously people were disappointed, but, you know, that through that disappointment, I suppose that they gained strength from it. But, you know, it's very difficult when you're sitting in the chair and you're looking at who you're going to play and who you're not going to play. But, you know, we were just glad really for the ones that took the pitch, like Joe Gubbins and Faisal Batash. And the other 5 or 6 academy players that were involved already.
And from your own point of view, what are the conversations like with Mark Warburton, where you might say to him, I think this player's ready to step up, or he comes to you asking if a player's ready? How does the conversation go when that happens?
I think, like, you'll find most people in development situations, people tend to think that you think the players are always ready. But I'm quite realistic, having, you know, sat in the hot seat myself. I realise you can't just put all the players in. So it's with all the managers, it's a difficult conversation, because they've got to put the trust in you that you're saying that the players are able to keep them in a job. So those conversations are not always the best, but, you know, we have a good relationship, and I'm happy to give my opinion, and obviously he decides finally who gets in and who doesn't.
And in terms of players that have managed to make that step up, I mean, maybe people are reading too much into it, but I saw a few people on Twitter saying, "Oh, look at Aussie Kakai in the new kit. He's the face of the academy's sort of successful prospect." Do you view him as that? Is he the success story that you want to see coming out of the academy?
Yeah, he's one of them. And you know, if you look at someone like Aussie, who's had to go to Scotland and had to go on different loans in order to get his first team football, and he's been overlooked by, you know, managers before, you know, where he's played sparingly and people haven't fully put their trust in him. But he's actually proved that had he probably had exposure before, that, you know, he may be one that top teams are looking at to buy, because he the way he came in, and he was probably our best player during the 5 or 6 games that he played. So, you know, hopefully the other academy players can look at him and look at the path that he's taken, and hopefully the club are in a situation where we do give them the opportunity to play.
And do you think the academy's reached a point yet in the development and the route that you're trying to put it on, that players do look at QPR and go, here's a club that I'm going to get minutes in the first team, and here's a club that I'm going to be able to develop as a professional?
Well, I hope so. I mean, I'm very proud of the staff that we've got. You know, we've got in our 23s, Paul Horn and the MP, who polish the players up so they go to the next level. We've got Paul Furlong and Mike Hyden, Addy Bancola with the under 18s, and you know, they all work. And our 23s goalkeeper Herbal, he works now with the first team as well. So the coaching cohort that we have at the top part of the club is absolutely second to none, really, in the country. Now, a lot of people say, well, what are you saying that for? But it's not always the badge that makes you have a good development program. It's the people and the environment and the culture. So we're very proud of our development program and the way that we've all come together to help the club produce players for the first team. So I wouldn't say that we are completely there yet, but years ago I worked at Tottenham, and we had a development program that was a 12-year program which produced a lot of players, and we are probably in year 5 or 6 of this one, and we've had to go the opposite to what we did at Tottenham, where we actually worked with the players all through the academy, because we have to really get players in and around the team quite quickly. We also have to take players that have been rejected from other clubs, and try to bring them in at the top end and try and see if we can develop them to their full potential, which we've had, quite a bit of success doing that.
Brilliant. And you've mentioned in previous interviews that the academy is seeking to produce a type of player that can work under different managers. I know a lot of people have kind of speculated that eventually, if and when Mark Warburton might end up not being the manager, a lot of fans would love to have Gareth Ainsworth in, but people have noted he plays quite a different style of football. Is there a sense among the coaching staff that any future managers would have to subscribe to a particular footballing philosophy that the players are also set up to play?
Well, it's very interesting when you're dealing with any development philosophy. It isn't about the style of play that you play in the academy. It's about the style of play that develops them to play for different managers. Because if you think about it, since I've been here, we've had 6 or 7 managers. So if you're looking at someone like Darnell Furlong, he's played for every manager, and he's had to adapt to different managers. Unfortunately in football now, the average manager's tenure is 1.1 year. So the players need to be adaptable to different managers. If a manager came in and played a direct style of football, then they would have to be able to play that. And it's up to us to educate them, through the academy when they're young, to be able to adapt to anybody that comes in. One of the things is, if you look at, say, Gareth, he's working at Wycombe, where they have to play a certain style of football because of the players that they attract and how they cultivate their whole environment. So I think managers also do change to suit the players that they've got, rather than saying, well, this is the way we play and we're not going to change.
Great. And a lot of our fans are conscious that maybe a couple of the club's best players might be on their way out sometime soon. How does the coaching staff go about ensuring that if a central player like Eze departs, the squad maintains that style of football and maintains the direction they were going in?
Well, I think because we've got the coaching staff that we've got in now with Mark Warburton and John Eustace and Neil Banfield and Gavin Ward, that's the type of football that has been brought into the club, and I think it's worked quite well. So I think we just have to coach the other players to coming through, and we still have a lot of talented players in the club. So it's just a matter of not losing our identity and continuing to coach and play in the way that we do, but obviously taking into consideration the people that we got in the club.
On the note of that identity, I wrote about it at the beginning of last season, but surely when Mark came in and he was very vocal about his philosophy and his idea of how the game is played, what's it like having someone coming in with such a drastic change for the club, as well as bringing in a completely new squad? That must have been quite difficult to deal with.
Well, when you think about it, when you look at last season, from Mark's point of view and the club's, the way the club has been, I mean, Les has created, was in the process of creating a culture that is open and transparent. So we knew that it was going to be very difficult. First of all, we're continually trimming the budget because of, we got the big fine with FFP and we knew that we have to put the club back on a stable footing. So if you looked at it at the beginning of the season last year, we had a bottom 6 budget, and we've worked it. You know, Mark and the other coaches have worked it so we can maintain the way that we play while changing, you know, 10, 12 players. So it's been actually a massive feat. And the fact that we're disappointed where we came internally goes to show how far we've come as regards moving the club forward. So having a manager that changes drastically is not anything new. You know, like I said, I've been there since 2014, and we've had 7 managers. So every so often it changes, and it's about the people in the club adapting to the new manager.
Not to put you on the spot too much, but are there any particular academy under-23s players who the fans might not have heard so much about yet, who you think are ready to make the step up pretty soon?
We do have a few people making the step up. We can't say that they're going to make the step up because obviously it depends on the manager's final choice. We've got Amrit McNulty, who's a very good player, who's been in and around the squad. We've got Dylan Duncan's been in and around the squad, Ben Wells. And there are a few other players that you know, I wouldn't want to mention them yet because they're still young, that we believe that eventually that they will make the squad. And our job really is to make sure that we keep our development philosophy going, because the development philosophy is different to the first team philosophy, because the first team manager changes all the time. So you have to make sure that the development philosophy stays consistent in order to make the players adaptable. So no, I believe that we will have players that will come into the first team, you know, within the next couple of years.
And how big do you think that step up really is from development player to the first team in the championship for these young players?
I think it's important on having exposure to train with the first team, because that gives you an understanding of the standard, the pace of it, the strength of it, and the game understanding. So it's always a big step up. But if you're drip fed into it, you know, at the right times, and you get to understand it, then I think that is the way to actually bring players into it. Like, for argument's sake, we have Faisal Ratash training with us at the moment, and you know, he's in and around the squad. He's starting to understand, you know, how tough it is to play at first team level, and I think that puts him in good stead for I'm sure over the next couple of games in pre-season you see him on the pitch and you see he's well equipped to deal with first team football.
And is there a quite an evident hunger in the development squads to move on and make that step up? Is it? Can you tell that they want to get there?
Well, the fact that we had, you know, towards the end of the season, we had 5 players starting in some games, and then by the end of it, we'd have had 7 players on the pitch who have played in the team, is actually, you know, a big pat on the back for the coaching staff of the first team at the moment, and I'm sure that they would want to develop the club's philosophy or the club's development program more. So if we continue to do that, it would be great for the under 23s who can see that there is a career path at the club. I mean, the main thing for us is for us to steer away from what a lot of clubs do by bringing in players that are similar to the players that you've got. And just because they come from a different club, we tend to, well, not only us, but clubs tend to think that they're better than the players that they've got. So as long as we can steer away from that, I'm sure we'll see a lot more players coming through the ranks.
And as we're coming towards the end of the first full week of pre-season training, can I ask, what's the mood like on the training ground, and what sort of position do you think the squad's in going into the friendly games that we've got lined up?
No, the mood at training ground is great, especially when the sun's out, obviously. The mood is great. Players are working hard. It's an unprecedented situation because obviously with the lockdown and the short break, and you know, you can't do the fitness training in the same way that you would have done having had a 6-week fitness regime where you go away and lock yourself in. So it's been very different, but you know, every player has come in with the right attitude, and you know, they've been training hard. So you know, hopefully this weekend will be the beginning of maybe every player getting 45 to 60 minutes in order to start bringing them back into in line with gameplay.
On maybe a more personal note, Chris, I was wondering what it was like for you, having been the first team manager in what was ultimately quite a difficult time for the club. What was it like personally, then stepping into an academy role after that?
Personally, it was very difficult because obviously, having been in charge of the club and going through a very, very difficult time, going back into the academy role, your pride is obviously dented at that time. But from my point of view, repaying the faith that the owners had in me, as regards giving me the job to start with, meant a lot to me. But most of all, the faith that Les had in me, as regards persuading the people around that I was the man for the job during that difficult time, and also outlining that when we first came in, we came in to do the project that we're doing now, and that there wouldn't be many people that would be able to take on the project in the same way. So for me, Les has been a big influence in my career, and I obviously wanted to pay him back, and obviously pay the owners back with the project that's happening at this moment. And obviously, I know I haven't fully paid them back yet for the faith that they've shown in me, but I think we're on the way to doing what they wanted us to do in the first place. Now, albeit we would rather be in the Premier League, but I think that considering that a lot of Championship clubs that come down bounce straight down to League One, I think from Les's point of view, and obviously our CEO Lee Hoos, they've done a remarkable job in stabilising the club and making sure that the club's on a strong foundation moving forward.
That's great. And another question on your own career. As a matter of curiosity, what was it like managing the football team in the USA in the early 2000s? And how did that differ from the English game?
Well, when I went there, there was only 10 MLS teams. So the two leagues that were quite similar. And it was, one of the first time that I coached players from all around the world. And it wasn't common in those days in England. So those 3 years that I had there really helped me with the foundation of being a manager and traveling the country. I mean, the league is so vast. You travel from Vancouver to Puerto Rico, so and you got different climates, different people. It was a very, very, very good experience for me, and it taught me a lot. And I always look at myself going back to America at some stage to coach out there because I enjoyed it.
That's great.
Yeah, I just thought I'd ask, as someone who's been in the club now for a decent period of time, and you said when you came in and when you were put in charge, it was quite a difficult time. To some of the fans who tend to be a bit out of the know of the inner workings of what's going on, would you say we have reason to be optimistic going into the next few years?
I think we do. Obviously, we've got the new training ground coming, which our academy manager, who we're going to do well to hold on to him, because he's done. He's a young man with big ambitions and big strides in helping to get the training ground in place. Along with the board members. So as far as the foundations of say the academy, which is where the club wants to come from, we've got a very good staff there. Even on our recruitment, we've got Gary Carser, who works on our recruitment. So I'm looking at the quality of the staff that we've got is what we need to look at for moving forward and ensuring the club's in a good place. So most of the staff now within the academy have been there between 3 and 6 years, which is in football, as staff turnover is big. So holding on to our best staff is going to be the thing that I'm looking at really within the academy. And I think optimistically, if we all get on the same site, which as we know, is at Heston. I think that's going to do really well for the club, and I think it will bring us even closer together than we are now, and possibly help us to attract players, young players. Instead of them going to clubs where when they go into the clubs, they know there's no chance of going there into their first team, because they're going to be buying players for 40, 50 million. We can start getting those players attracted to QPR and making sure that our foundations are strong for the future. So I think, as far as looking ahead, as long as we keep in this same vein, keep our project going, like we are at the moment, and everybody that comes into the club realizes that we have a project in place at the moment, and we need to work that project to keep us going to where we need to be. I think we should be optimistic.
And just to bring like a little reference for the site itself, our whole project is about giving a platform to the younger fans, especially the young adults who want to write and want to get into journalism or whatever, but they might not normally get their voice heard. So as someone who deals with, this is a good link, with someone who deals
so
with,
proud of this.
Yeah, with someone who deals with the young players for a living and has seen people come through, and what do you think that mindset is in the youth players that is necessary for younger people in whatever profession to make it in whatever area they want to make it in?
Well, I think the mindset is you have to believe in what you're good at. A lot of people concentrate on their weaknesses. And in our academy, we don't really work that much on weaknesses, unless it's actually going to stop you from succeeding. So if you want to be a writer, your weakness better not be writing. So but you have to believe in what you're good at and what you can create, and then get people around you that of similar vision and similar mind. Because a lot of the times you have dream stealers around you. So you think big, but they don't think big, and then you tend to think like them. So get people around you that will allow you to flourish. I mean, for argument's sake, if you look at my job, it's probably one of the only jobs in the world like mine where I work with the first team and I work with the under-9s. There's no job like it anywhere. So on any given day, I can work on a Saturday morning with Paul and Mike out with the under-18s, and then in the afternoon I drive to Loftus Road to be part of Mark's team. Now, for me, if I was to write myself a job description, that would be it. But that's taken a long time. That I've been fortunate to have a club that has created that role for me. And Les realised that was going to be my strength. So I've got a like-minded person with a like-minded dream. Albeit he's not got the same dream as me, but he's putting people into place that can help the club move forward, and everybody wins. So I would always say to people, get like-minded people around you. Don't think anything's out of your grasp, but make sure you put things into place to make sure that your dreams come true.
That's brilliant, Chris, and I think that's probably as good a note as any to end it on. Then I think. So just for those watching, thank you for watching. And if you've not heard of us, we're ourgeneration.net. We've got loads of good contributors, and we're at ourgenerationnet on social media. So just thanks again, Chris, for joining us, and look forward to some more interviews soon, hopefully.
Thank you very much for inviting me, and you guys, I'll look to see you on big television in the next few years. Okay.
Let's hope so.
See you soon.